sewn my vertical strips, my vertical sashing, to my cornerstones here. And it's time to iron them. And I found the quickest way to iron them is to let them drape over the ironing board this way. And you want to iron from the blue onto the sashing. And I just give each one of them a little iron. And that will leave them flat enough that I can work with them. And I go to the next one. When I get all of these done, I will attach the sashing to the blocks, and we will iron toward the sashing on those, and then we'll be ready to get our quilt center together. I have my lattice work piece that I have just ironed. I'm just going to stick it up here in place and kind of show you how it goes. I had 5 of them total, and I've gotten them all ironed and in place. Now I will take each block and iron it to the sashing piece, and then take this one because I have positioned them like I want them and I don't want to get confused. So I will do these one at a time, put them back on the board, go to the next one until I have this complete strip done, then go to this strip, this strip, this strip. At that time we will sew the long strips to the sashing, matching these seam lines. I have all of my sashings together, all of my cornerstones and sashings. I wanted to show you how to put the block to the sashing that it goes with. I take the sashing and I just fold it down on the block. And then turn it so that the solid sashing is on the bottom. When you get ready to sew it, get the top edge and the right edge even with the top and the right of the sashing. Now, this little tip right here is going to stick out. This tip that's left over from the diagonal seam. Don't worry about that. If it hangs out in midair, that's fine. We want to get the top edge and the right edge even. Put it under the presser foot and start sewing. Put your hand on those strings so they don't get pulled down in there. When you get it going, leave your needle down. Go to the other end. Get the bottom edge and the right edge even and pinch it with your fingers. Pull just slightly to even everything out. This keeps you from having to pin. I call it finger pinning. Keep your edges even as you're coming down. These right off that end, and then you're ready to press it. When you press it, put it on the ironing board with the solid piece on top and then open it out and press it to the lattice work. And that way you have less bulk. I have the sections of the quilt in vertical strips now. I have all of the big ones with the sashing. I have the small sashing with this center block. And I will take the smaller piece and sew onto the larger. Smaller onto larger, smaller onto larger, where I wind up with 3 approximately the same size pieces, and then I will start putting them together from there. I like to work with evenly sized pieces if I can, so I will start connecting the long vertical sashing strip to the large block strip, matching your seams where they are so that it comes out even. We have these 2 pieces, this one long piece and then our sashing strip. We're going to sew them together, but we're not going to take time to put pins in them because we know where the points need to meet. We're going to start them even at the top and on the right. Take a couple of stitches and stop with your needle down. Come to the next 2 seams that are supposed to match. Notch them together real good. Hold them with a stiletto and sew to that point. Once you're through that point, leave your needle down. Come down to the next seam and match that. We're going to sew down this entire quilt this way so we don't have to pin. Just keep going, sewing from seam to seam. Every time you get through one seam, leave the needle down and go to the next seam and match it up. And we'll have these together shortly. I have the center of the quilt together now. I need to decide what kind of borders I'm going to have. I like to have a thin, dark border to frame this, and then a larger border that I can do a lot of quilting in. To find out how long to cut our borders, we're going to measure from one side to the other side, and I'm getting 56.5. Make sure and write these numbers down so you don't forget them. Measure it twice. Make sure you get it right. 56.5. So I'm going to write that number down, and I'll cut some strips out of my first border material and cut 2 strips 56.5 inches long, and I will sew them to the top and the bottom of the quilt. Then I will measure from the top to the bottom and cut 2 strips that long for the left and the right sides, and we'll have our first border on. I finished my first inner border, the little navy thin one. I framed the center of the quilt very nicely. Now I'll go for my next border, and I may add 2 or 3 more, depending on how many colors I want to pull out from the inside of the quilt. If you do a 1 inch, then a 2, and then a 4, if you go up in increments like that, it looks very nice, or just one nice large one would do. But I'll finish my borders on this and get it the size that I want it to be. You can adjust your borders so that you wind up with the size quilt that you want if you would like. But you can put as many borders on here as you would like. Each time you will measure from side to side and put that length at the top and the bottom, and then measure from the top to the bottom and put that on the 2 sides, and you continue that until you get all the borders on that you want. I hope you've enjoyed making this positive negative quilt with me today. Good luck if you try one of these. Try it with lots of different colors and different size strips. That can make a lot of difference in the outcome of the quilt. The smaller the pieces that you use, the more activity you get in your quilt. Until I see you again, happy quilting.